I'm Liz Faubliss, and this is Currents. A celebration of the Brooklyn Diocese's tireless efforts on behalf of immigrants.
Diocesan Migration Day is a celebration of the universality of the Catholic Church as we live it here in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Plus, we'll get the pulse of the electorate as November inches closer. And we'll head to Douglaston for a Youth Day gathering.
We're going to gather about 300 to 400 young people, both in junior high school and high school, and they're going to learn not only about their faith, but also the communal aspect of their religion.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It was quite a celebration here yesterday as the Diocese of Brooklyn held its annual Migration Mass. It was an opportunity to recognize the diversity that fuels and helps define the church in Brooklyn and Queens. The Mass, which took place at the Church of St. Joseph in Prospect Heights, also recognized the hard work of the Diocese Migration Office, which has served the city's immigrant communities for 41 years. The office assists men, women, and children who have come from at least 167 different countries. Many representatives from these various groups were at St. Joseph's Church yesterday, and so were we.
Today, Diocesan Migration Day is a celebration of the universality of the Catholic Church as we live it here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. It's the bringing together of all the different apostolates and immigrant groups throughout Brooklyn and Queens to celebrate the Eucharist with the bishop.
Well, the Year of Faith has been called by the Holy Father to concentrate our attention on what our faith means. We have goals, and some of the goals are to outreach to new immigrant groups, Chinese, because there are 400,000 Chinese in the diocese, and all of the older groups that are here, plus then the newer immigrants or migrants, the young people.
You see different cultures and then different languages that you see. It's so really lovely. Catholics, really, we have the faith. We all have the faith. And today, for instance, this Mass that we held is really celebrating the honor for the one who founded this Migration Day.
Catholic Immigration Services, which was founded in 1971. The first director was His Eminence Anthony Cardinal Bevilacqua, who recently passed away this past January. And so today we're honoring him as one who founded the first agency in the United States dedicated to helping those, the people on the move, dedicating to help immigrants. All the apostolates are part of Migration Day, and each year they rotate. This year, the music was provided by our Filipino community. The gift bearers were from the Ghanaian community. This year, our first reading is in Chinese. St. Paul tells us there's neither Greek nor Jew, male nor female, but we're united in Jesus Christ. And we see that so beautifully during the Prayer of the Faithful, where all the different languages of our diocese are used. So that anyone coming to Mass today, no matter what language they speak at home or they're fluent in, hear and are also praying in their language.
I enjoy to see a lot of our friends from the different countries with their traditional dresses, and I enjoy them to look at their dresses and listen to their languages.
We felt welcome because we're one church. It's just the matter of places where we celebrate the Masses every day. So it doesn't matter like if we're in Indonesia and in here, we're the same. We celebrate Masses like Catholic Masses. And we're really welcome because all the priests, they respect all people from other countries, and they lead us slowly to get to fit in with the church in here.
This gift of faith is so embedded in our hearts that no matter what languages we speak, or what cultures we celebrate, or what nations we come from, we can come together in a beautiful church and know that we are all brothers and sisters.
There's more Currents ahead. A group of cardinals from the U.S. will have a lot more on their already busy schedules. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. 2 months after being elevated to cardinal, new assignments for senior churchmen, including the 2 newest cardinals from the U.S. Pope Benedict made a number of appointments over the weekend. Cardinals Timothy Dolan and Edwin O'Brien were both named to the Congregation for Oriental Churches. Additionally, Cardinal Dolan was named to the Pontifical Councils for Social Communication and New Evangelization. Meanwhile, Cardinal O'Brien was placed on the Congregation for Catholic Education and the Pontifical Council Cor Unum, which works to help the needy around the world. Pope Benedict also appointed Washington's Cardinal Donald Wuerl to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, which oversees church doctrine. A radical rereading of the First Amendment protections. That's what Miami Archbishop Thomas Wensky says infringes on the rights of Catholics. Writing in the South Florida Sun Sentinel, Wensky echoed the thoughts of bishops across the country, saying the federal contraception mandate is not about birth control, but rather religious freedom. He added that the Catholic Church must oppose the mandate. The Archbishop also recalled the words of Pope Benedict in Cuba. The Holy Father said the Church is not asking for special privileges, just the freedom to witness her beliefs. Wensky was part of a U.S. delegation visiting Cuba during the Pope's trip there. The group also included Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DeMarcio and Auxiliary Bishop Octavio Cisneros, a native of Cuba. Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin has suspended an abortion procedure because of a new state law. The organization will no longer perform abortions induced by medication. Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin made that decision after a new law took effect on Friday. The rule states any woman seeking an abortion induced by medication must see the same doctor 3 times. It also requires the doctor to ensure the women are not being forced to have an abortion. The new law does not apply to use of the morning after pill, and Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin will still perform surgical abortions. The head of NARAL Wisconsin says the law adds unnecessary and intrusive restrictions for abortion providers. The executive director of Wisconsin Right to Life said the new measure is a common sense law that protects women. Evangelical Christian leader Charles Colson has died. Colson, who founded Prison Fellowship Ministries, died over the weekend. He was 80 years old. He underwent brain surgery 3 weeks ago after experiencing dizziness while speaking at a conference. Colson was the first person to serve jail time in connection with the Watergate scandal and became a born-again Christian shortly before entering prison. After being released from jail, he founded Prison Fellowship Ministries, which supports inmates with Bible study, mentoring programs, and support for children of prisoners. Colson also co-signed the 1993 document Catholics and Evangelicals Together, which identified common ground among the 2 faith groups. A Polish Catholic is being posthumously honored for bringing attention to the plight of those suffering during the Holocaust.
We must tell our children about how this evil was allowed to happen, because so many people succumbed to their darkest instincts, and because so many others stood silent. Let us also tell our children about the righteous among the nations. Among them was Jan Karski, a young Polish Catholic who witnessed Jews being put on cattle cars, who saw the killings, and who told the truth all the way to President Roosevelt himself. Jan Karski passed away more than a decade ago, but today I'm proud to announce that this spring I will honor him with America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
President Obama made that announcement today during a ceremony at the Holocaust Museum in Washington. Jan Karski served as an officer in the Polish underground during World War II. He was one of the first people to provide eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust to the rest of the world. He eventually settled in the U.S. and became a professor at Georgetown University. He died in 2000. The Pentagon is asking a Protestant pastor in Florida not to burn the Koran after he had already done so in the past. The State Department is concerned that Pastor Terry Jones plans to burn the Koran and images of Muhammad this week, and that could place American soldiers in Afghanistan in danger. Jones says he won't go through with it if an Iranian Christian pastor currently on death row in Iran is released. He set a deadline of 5 p.m. this Saturday for his demands to be met. The Florida pastor first garnered attention when he threatened to burn the Koran on September 11, 2010, unless a planned Islamic center near Ground Zero was moved. Meanwhile, over the weekend, violence by Muslims against Catholics in Sudan. A Muslim mob burned a church in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. According to the Associated Press, the attack appeared to be related to an ongoing dispute between the Sudan and southern part of the country that seceded last year. Catholics from the south reportedly frequented the church, which was part of a complex that also included a school and dormitories. Well, for the first time in 2012, a bishop is ordained in China with the Vatican's approval. The ordination took place last Thursday with the approval of both the Holy See and the Chinese government. According to reports, a bishop who is excommunicated took part in the ceremony, something the Vatican would not have approved. The news came just days before a meeting at the Vatican to discuss the life of the church in China. Well, as the weather gets warmer, it may be time to get away from it all. And Pope Benedict says vacationing has plenty to offer, both good and bad. Rome Reports has the details on that.
Benedict XVI sent a message to those taking part in the 7th World Congress on Pastoral Care of Tourism, which is being held in Cancun, Mexico from April 23rd to the 27th. The Pope talked about the positive side of tourism, but he also denounced the negative aspects that can arise from this industry, such as sex tourism, human trafficking, the buying and selling of organs, and the exploitation of minors. Benedict XVI also said that tourism, along with vacation and leisure time, creates an ideal space to meet people from different cultures while taking time for both the physical and spiritual renovation.
And we've got more currents straight ahead. Coming up, President Obama and Mitt Romney. Now that the face-off appears set, what do the voters think? And then there were two. Well, so it seems. With Rick Santorum ceding his race for the GOP nod, the overwhelming consensus, though still unofficial, has former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney going head-to-head with President Obama in November. And if the latest polls are any guide, we could be in for an extremely tight race. Now, while some surveys have Romney and Obama in a dead heat, others still show the GOP candidate pulling ahead by a sizable margin. Not to mention, a battle continues to wage for key demographics, including Catholic voters and those of other religious denominations. With so much at stake and tons of statistics, policy, and what-ifs to sift through, I touched base with Stephen Schneck earlier today. Steve is the director of the Institute for Policy Research and Catholic Studies at Catholic University of America. He helped explain where President Obama and Republican frontrunner Mitt Romney line up with voters on key issues. Steve, since Rick Santorum abandoned his GOP bid, what had been a head-to-head matchup between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney suddenly has Romney in the lead. Now, that's depending, of course, on where you look. Gallup released numbers on April 17th showing Romney ahead by 5 points. If you had to pinpoint one or even two factors, what's building this momentum for him?
Part of what we're seeing, Liz, is just Romney has, as you say, has knocked off Santorum, and as a result is the titular front runner in the Republican Party. And there's often, a surge that accompanies that. So that's part of what we're seeing here. But, underlying it all, though, are some real problems that I think the Obama administration is facing, hoping for its own reelection. The economy is still kind of in the doldrums. Unemployment is still above 8%. It's hard to imagine, that any president's going to do well, with that number. So, underneath it all, I think is this economic malaise. But I think that, the current bump that Romney's had in the polls is a temporary one associated with this the normal surge that follows a clinching of the nomination.
Okay, now I want to talk numbers and demographics with you. Pew Research showing Obama lost ground in the past month to Romney among Protestants and Catholics generally. Romney now possesses a particularly large lead over President Obama among white evangelicals and white Catholics. Is this a matter of policy? What is it about Romney that's so appealing to these particular demographics?
Well, I think it's almost just the reverse. It's not that Romney is so appealing, but rather that the negatives for Obama are so high among both of those groups, particularly among evangelicals. The negatives for Obama among evangelicals are just extraordinarily high. With Catholics, it's more interesting. If you, in fact, look at the Pew numbers closely, you'll see that in March, Obama actually had the lead among Catholics, but in April, suddenly the Catholics have switched over to the Obama side. And I think part of what we're seeing there is that bump, that surge that I was referring to before. But also, I think we might be seeing the impact of the bishop's religious liberty campaign playing out in politics.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that brings up another interesting point. Obama with a huge lead over Romney with religiously unaffiliated Americans and Americans who attend religious services less often than once a week. How much of that is really a reflection of his backing of the HHS mandate, of his pro-life standards?
In fact, in fact, he's always had difficulties. Even if we go back to the 2008 election, you'll see that Obama did better among religiously unaffiliated groups than among religiously affiliated groups. And so this is something that's been part of Obama's struggle for quite some time. And in fact, frankly, it's been something that the Democratic Party has been struggling with at least since 2000. As over the last decade or so, the Democrats have been trying to regain some traction with religious groups, but not having a great deal of success.
And Stephen, the time we have left, I really want to get to this. You've said as voters, American Catholics mirror the electorate as a whole, so it's really kind of hard to trace like the political complexity to religious allegiance, which is not to say it doesn't have a place, it's just really hard to pinpoint. Is that what you're saying?
You know, that's true generally, but I think that there are smaller populations of Catholics that really do vote as Catholics. And so, if you're referring to my piece in CNN where I make that argument, I suggest that there are really kind of three important groups of Catholics. There are Latino Catholics, there are regular church-going Catholics, and there are less often attending Catholics. That might be a good way to divide the three groups. And each of those groups vote differently. And the group that's really up for grabs is not the church-going Catholics. For the most part, those people have signed on for the Romney campaign, it looks like. And it's not the Latino Catholics. For the most part, they seem to have signed on to the Obama campaign. But it's those less attending Catholics in the middle that I think are the swing voting Catholics that are up for grabs in this election.
All right, Steve, I got to get your thoughts on this. It's happening today. A possible running mate for Mitt Romney. He's attending events in Pennsylvania today with Senator Marco Rubio. Not to get you all caught up in the speculation wheel, but anything to that? And are there any Catholics in the running for a possible running mate?
Well, obviously, Rubio calls himself a Catholic. He does attend evangelical services as well as Catholic services, but Rubio is certainly in the hunt here. And I think that right now he probably has the nod among most of the handicappers, for who's likely to win the VP slot from Romney. But there are some other interesting candidates out there as well. I think we've heard Nikki Haley mentioned. We've heard Condi Rice mentioned. There are a number of interesting candidates. Bobby Jindal. So there are quite a few out there. Jindal, by the way, is Catholic. Might be one to mention here in this context. So,
okay.
Some interesting candidates, yeah.
All right, Steve. Oh, it's always such a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Ditto, Liz. Enjoyed a lot. Take care now.
Bye-bye. And of course, we will continue to cover the race for the presidency and how it affects voters like you and me right up until the final vote is cast. The New York primary gets underway tomorrow. Romney picked up the endorsement of former Mayor Rudy Giuliani on the eve of the Empire State vote. Giuliani promised to do anything he can to help Romney win in November. Stay tuned. There's more currents ahead. When we return, faith, hope, and love, all part of a diocesan youth day in Queens.
The whole idea is just to really get kids to see Christianity and Catholicism on a larger spectrum, a bigger scale.
It seems like just yesterday that young people from around the world gathered in Madrid for World Youth Day 2011. The net brought you the sights and sounds from what was a monumental event. Now, the next World Youth Day is being held in 2013. Young men and women will converge on Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. It will be a year earlier than normal because Brazil is hosting Soccer's World Cup in 2014. Now, in between these big events, though, dioceses hold local gatherings where young people can come together for faith and fellowship. This weekend, that's exactly what happened at the Immaculate Conception Center in Douglaston, Queens. It had everything: music, games, and a whole lot of faith.
We're here today for our Diocesan Youth Day celebration, and our theme is Faith, Hope, and Love. Today's important because we're going to gather about 300 to 400 young people, both in junior high school and high school, and they're going to learn not only about their faith, but also the communal aspect of their religion. We're able to get so many kids to kind of sit still and pay attention because we get some engaging speakers and performers that are able to not only spread the word of God through their ministry, but also keep the kids actively engaged.
Popple is a full-time Catholic youth ministry, acoustic humor rock ministry. We're two guys and we travel around the country. We play acoustic guitar and ukulele and talk and sing about our faith. Generally, everything that we do has a little line of humor running through it.
I honestly think that the band Popple was my favorite part. They really brought us, eased us in, talking to us about our faith towards the end. I absolutely loved that.
Our workshops, as far as the BFFs of all BFFs and What Would Jesus Watch, these are kind of catchphrases that we hope would get kids excited about coming today. But at the end of the day, it's all about spreading Christ's message and spreading the Word of God. Our other workshops, we have a workshop on John Paul II, one about our Christian love and one about vocations.
The topic I spoke on today was kind of a mutual decision between the organizers of the event and myself. I've done talks on John Paul II in the past because he was a very important figure in my life.
I was really excited to speak on the topic today of just entering into a friendship with God. Particularly excited because I feel like that's one of the key elements of our faith, of living out our relationship with God.
And the whole idea is just to really get kids to see Christianity and Catholicism on a larger spectrum, a bigger scale.
The one thing I would tell, whether it be a priest, a bishop, whoever would come to me, I would definitely mention to them that it sounds kind of silly, but their homilies, I've realized that I like the homilies that are about now, and instead of relating it back to 2,000 years ago, try to bring it to modern terms. And I think that if they brought it to modern terms, I think more teens my age would definitely, or a little bit older, would be able to go to Mass.
We as the leaders of today have to step up our game at times and open ourselves to those young people, because if we let them just to be by themselves and to hope that they understand what Christianity and Catholicism is all about, it may not necessarily happen. So days like today kind of not only reassure the youth, but also us of our roles as leaders.
At times I am shy about my faith. Will I ever denounce that I'm a Catholic? No. But I would definitely preach my faith if I'm with other people, like today.
I think the church today in a whole is succeeding in meeting the needs of the youth and the young adults, especially in our diocese. I see more and more pastors and parishes and committees, pastoral council committees, really dedicating their time, money, and efforts to these programs. And I see good things in the future.
I definitely will think about certain things, how I treat others. My faith is getting stronger. Inside before when we were singing, I felt really close to God.
And that is all for this edition of Currents. Coming up on tomorrow's show, 90 years is a long time, and a Brooklyn parish is celebrating that milestone anniversary. We'll have that story and much more tomorrow. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching and have a good night.